Story title: Headshot. One chance, one shot, and it had to be a headshot. She could not afford not to take the shot, and missing the target was not an option. If she missed, she could be dead within 48 hours. Sharon flexed her shoulder muscles and blinked slowly to let the sweat drop from her eyelids. She was in a prone position on the roof of the building that overshadowed the tram stop in St. Peter's Square. The building gave her a clear line of sight of Key Street and Peter Street. Her eyes had not strayed from the telescopic lens of her rifle in the last 6 hours. Her target, simply known as Cougar, was a fellow agent gone rogue. Cougar was one of the best assassins in the agency, and only a handful of people could easily identify her as she was good with disguises. The reason Cougar went rogue was still a mystery. The agency had ordered that Cougar must be taken out as soon as now. So, an ultra-secret sting operation was set up to draw her out into the open. She was bound to show up, but as what or who was the unanswered question. The urgency of her boss in setting up the sting operation was unusual. And the ultra-secret nature of the operation meant she had to be a lone wolf. The bait, who was seen as the Cougar's main informant, was seated about 500 yards away on Peter Street outside Albert Schloss eating his breakfast. His back was turned to her, as he sat facing the traffic coming from Key Street into Peter Street. He had been paid to lure the Cougar out into the open. He was one of the few people who could point out the Cougar. He simply had to nod casually as she approached him. However, if Cougar suspects anything, the bait was as good as dead. Sharon scanned the different doorways and alleys that led to Albert Schloss. She was sure Cougar was close by, waiting, watching, and scheming. Sharon could only hope the Cougar had not spotted her. She focused back on the bait. He was sweating slightly. The temperature in Manchester was over 25 degrees, and he was wearing a dark blue suit. He had on a bulletproof vest under the suit. The bait stopped eating and turned slightly to his left to look at something or someone. Sharon followed the direction he was focused on. It was a middle-aged woman who was wearing a blue denim jacket, white blouse, black trousers, dark sunglasses, and a black hat. She slowly walked down Peter Street, approaching the bait from across the road. Though the woman walked casually, her head was always shielded by passers-by anytime she was in Sharon's line of sight. The woman stopped in front of the building that housed Impossible nightclub, which was adjacent Albert Schloss. She stood and looked in the direction of the bait. A siren-blaring fire truck came tearing down from Key Street. Just as the truck got close, she waved at him slowly. He smiled, nodded, and his head dissolved into a bloody mess of brain matter, bones and blood. Sharon squeezed the trigger. The end. This short story was written by Olumide Holloway aka King Olulu.